today we are going to move on our Tinder project, and we are going to make it a bit more interesting. So, as you remember, at the current moment we only have the name showing in each card, the name of the opposite sex user. Now we are going to make it better. We are going to save information relevant to that opposite sex user in that card, so that we can later add, for example, an image, the age, the name, and we can have a bunch of information there. It will also allow us to save the connection, whether it is negative or positive, to the database, because then we can get the ID of that user much easier. So, without any setbacks, let's get right into it and open our Tinder Android Studio project. And this is where we left off in the last lesson. And in order to achieve what we want, we'll have to change the array adapter, and we'll change this into something that we can manage, because with this the only thing we can have is this array list. We want to have a lot more information and not just an array. We want to have basically a matrix, if you can imagine that, because each line will have multiple columns and not just one, which is what we get with this array. So first of all, we are going to take care of the layout of the card, and to do that, let's go into our item, which is inside the resource folder, and then layout. Okay, open that up. Let's just open the preview for you to see, and I'm going to try to make it as pretty as possible, even though I'm not a designer, but yeah, let's get right into it and try to make it easy on the eye. So we'll have, first of all, a card view. Oops. Yeah, oh, I forgot. Card views. To use card views, which is a design element, I believe you must add a dependency. Let me just check. No, why isn't it working? Oh no, yes, we must. I was checking the documentation, and I'm going to copy and paste that, but you can check it yourself. It is this line in here. You must copy and paste that inside the Gradle file. And this card view is just, in Android we use that a lot because it looks nice. You divide each segment with a card, which is basically what Tinder does. I believe they use card views because they look extremely similar, unless they actually develop their own, which I don't believe, because that's a waste of time. So make sure you paste that inside and sync the Gradle, and now we'll be able to add a card view. Here we go. So I'm going to make it wrap contents, and a card view is basically a linear layout or a frame layout, wherever. It works basically, it does the same, it doesn't work the same. Okay, so let's put a gravity center. And now we'll make a corner radius so that it isn't pointy in the corners, so it looks easier on the eye. Let's put an elevation for it to have a shadow below it. And let's do we need, okay, let's put an ID. I don't believe we'll need it, but just in case, card view, it should suffice. So now let's move on, and we are going to copy and paste this inside the card view. As I said, this is like a layout, a frame layout, a linear layout, wherever. So in here we are going to change it to linear layouts, and we are going to set these to wrap content, and the height to wrap content as well. I'm going to set the padding left to 40 SP, the padding right to 40 SP, padding top to 20 SP, and the padding bottom to 20 SP. And we are going to use an outline provider, and we'll set the clip to padding to false. This is just so that we can show shadows, otherwise this layout would cut off the shadows inside the shadows that the card view provides or makes, whatever you want to call it. So now in here we are going to call a frame layout, because I can't remember what card view acts as. I don't know if it is linear layout or whatever. Let's just use it for the design and not for the features. So okay, now we can actually remove these views, they aren't doing us any good, and we are going to change the width and height, otherwise it will be small, rather small. So let's say 250 dp, that should be fine. Okay, I believe I like that, that's good. And the height of not that, but 170, okay, that's good enough at least. So let's now take care of this text. I don't like this color. This is the color that the library comes with, but I believe it is quite boring. So let's make it a classic white and black. It always looks nice. Okay, that looks good. Now we can add the image view that we are going to use in order to show the image of everyone, of the opposite sex users. So you set it to match parent in order for it to fill the background, which last time I checked Tinder, it is like this. You have an image in the bottom and the text overlaying the image. But if it isn't, I'm going to check it at the end of this lesson, and if it isn't, I'll change it in the next lesson to make it as close as possible. So don't worry about that. Okay, ID, we are going to change it to name, which is a lot more pragmatic. Image, okay. Everything looks good. Frame layout, okay. We don't need to change anything. Let's just say gravity, layout gravity to center, just to be sure. Okay, so we can move on and start working on coding this card. Can close this activity, you don't need that. And for the meantime, you're not going to change this. We are going to take care of everything and then add the code that we write, or connect, better yet, to the main activity. So if you don't have a lot of knowledge in Android, this will probably seem strange. So if you need to pause and go check out other lessons, I more than advise you to. What you gotta know is how to work with, let's say, recycler views. They are really similar to what we are going to do now, or list views, whatever. So I'll try to explain as best as I can, but if you don't know the basics of this, it will be extremely hard. So be mindful of that. So the first thing we gotta do is take care of a class that's going to handle each user separately. So in that class we'll have the user ID, the name, the image URL, and it is basically an array. Each compartment of that array has a class, that class, that's composed of multiple strings, and we can change those strings or put or get the strings, the value of those strings. So it will be clear in a second. Let's create it and you'll see. So let's name it just cards. Doesn't need to have a special name. And now we'll have, for this lesson, two strings. One will be the user ID, which we'll need to connect to the database, as I've said before, and the other one will be the name, which will show to the current user. Then we'll have a function called cards, which will have the parameters user ID, and this user ID is different from that user ID. Okay, this is a parameter. Don't be confused by that. And the string name. This is the function that we'll use in order to populate that specific element of the array. Okay, so now say this user ID, because we are changing this user ID, equals to user ID, and this user ID is equal to that one. Now do the same for the name, equals to name, and now we'll make the functions to get these values and to change the values. So to change the values we probably won't be needing, but I always put them, even though I rarely use them, just to have them, you know. So let's create functions, two for each variable, and the first one will be get user ID, and to get user ID the only thing we must return is the user ID, and that's it. And now we'll create another one of the type which won't return nothing, so void, and we'll set user ID, and the parameter will be string user ID, open brackets, and then again do the same thing as you did inside here. This is to change separately. This is to create it, and this is to if you want to change it. Now we can actually copy and paste that and do the same for the name. So get name, make sure you type it right with no misplaced capital letters. It is a very common error from what I can tell in the comments, so be careful with that. It is a really normal mistake and one that happens a lot. So there we go. Everything is said and done, and now we are going to create an array adapter, and this array adapter is what's going to control everything. Again, if you know how to code recycle views or list views or whatever, you are accustomed to this, so it won't be anything new. And let's go ahead and create the array adapter. This array adapter is when you create a view, or better yet, when a view comes to the screen, this array adapter is called for that position, and it populates the item with the correct array position, with the correct card in this example. So first of all we'll need a context, which will pass inside this array adapter. And now let's create array adapter. This function is what we are going to call when we start populating the cards right in the beginning, in the set event listener. You know, we've already done that, so we won't need to write a bunch of code for that. And resource ID and list cards items. This is just the blah blah that you have to write, so don't worry about that. Just try to paste it into your code. ID items. As you can see, we already have the cards in here. Okay. Why isn't it? Oh, I'm writing this, but I believe we don't need, just because we need to extend the array adapter, the cards array adapter. So we are writing all that, but we probably won't need it because it takes care of that for us. And here it is. No more errors. And now let's create the another function which is called public view get view. And this is what is going to populate the card, each card. So inside here we'll be able to add a name to the text view and add an image to the image, and so forth, so forth. So int position view converts view, and just for now copy and paste that. I'll explain it in a second. View group parent. And now we'll get, where is the error? Missing return. Oh, okay. We'll add the return in a second. So now we are going to get the card, that's the card, and when I say card I'm talking about this card that's specific to the current view that's on the screen. So let's say cards, card item, and this will give us the name, the everything that's inside here. This is what that variable is going to give us. And now we say get item position, which is the current position that this view is building. So now we must say converts view, and we are going to inflate the convert view. So we'll pass everything inside the convert view. Layout inflator from get context dot inflate or dot layout dot item comma parent comma false. Let's see where the error is. Layout inflator. Oops, in here it is one more parenthesis than needed. Add the annotation and it should go away. In here it is get context. I don't know why it wrote that. Okay. Okay. And let's do it the right way. So just an if, and it is just make sure that the convert view is equal to null, and there's nothing there. And that annotation I believe was for that. So yeah. Okay, so that's done, and now we are going to do the find view by IDs for each item that we need inside here, that we need to populate inside that. So for the text view, say, and this is just like the normal activity, normal layout. We say text view name text view. And now the only thing different is that, where is the error? Okay, let's just continue. So the only thing different is that we must say convert view dot find view by ID r.id.name, and this is because the convert view is what's inflating the layout. So the convert view is what has everything, is the layout for per se. So okay, so you gotta make sure you do that, otherwise it won't work. So now let's do the same for the image view. Image, import class, paste that inside, image, and now we just set the text using the card view that we have up top. So set text card item dot, and it will show up get name, get user ID. This is the two things that we created previously. So as you can see, it is rather easy. If you have the knowledge for recycler views, then it becomes extremely easy. And now for the image resource, I'm going to just to add a random image for the meantime, and then when we have the profile more complete and the users can add the profile picture, then the only thing that's going to be different is that we'll have another string with the image URL, and then using a library called Glide, which I've talked about in my Uber series, we'll be able to add that the image that's on that URL directly into the image view. So, but for now, we'll just add a random image. Let's add the launcher image, for example. That way I don't have to download anything. So yeah, for now that's all. We must, before anything, return the convert view. Don't forget that. And yeah, so we can move on. This is all done with, and we can go into our main activity and actually start to do to connect everything. So first of all, we won't be needing this A1. I believe so. Yeah, we won't be needing that A1. We'll have a different one. We'll have a different list view for that. So let's add first of all the cards and the card data, even though we won't be needing it, I believe. So it's just something to have. Then we'll have the array adapter, and this time we are going to use our array adapter, which we just created. So it's just removing that. Remove. If you didn't see, I just removed this string, and that way it becomes our array adapter, and this A is not capitalized. Okay. I should have made the name a bit different, but just make sure the first A is not capitalized and you remove the string that's next to it. Then there shouldn't be any problems. So let me just see. Okay, so then we'll add, and let's not make it private, we don't need that. I have the custom to put everything private, but there's no real reason for it, just something that I do mechanically. So then add a list view called list view, and then a list that's going to be with the cards which we've created, and give it the name of row items. Okay, so after that is over and done with, we can remove, or actually let's change the A1 which we have here, and it is giving an error because it doesn't exist anymore, and it will be replaced by the row items variable that we've created, and it is going to be of the type cards. We don't need to put cards, but it's just to be easier for you to read. And now let's change the array adapter. So as up top, we are going to, this is not the type that we want. We want the array adapter that's with the not capitalized A, and we don't need the brackets in the end. Okay, and now it will point to the class that we've created. And now inside here, all we have, as you can see in here, you have a context, the resource ID, and items. So let's give it just that. Item and row items. That's everything. So yeah, now the only thing that really changes is the way we, first of all, let's change this to row items in order to remove it. Gotta make sure those little errors are gone. Okay, so now when it changes, as I was saying, is inside here, and I have some code here that shouldn't be. I'm sorry about that. We are going to speak of this in the next lesson. For now, there's no need for you to be here. So you have something like this at the moment. And the way we add it is by creating a card item. So we basically populate a new array with cards, with a card, and then we put that card inside the row item. So in here it is going to be a row item. Why is it items, not item? Okay, and it is giving an error because it is expecting something, a variable of the type card. So that's what we are going to give it, and let's do it separately so it becomes easier for you. And let's give it the name item, new cards, and inside here we are going to pass, as you can see, an user ID and a name. If you click Control and then hover the cards, it will give the variables that you need to pass in order to create it. And if you go in here, is basically this. So we have a user ID and a name. So give it just that. We have the data snapshot, and so in order to get the ID, we just say data snapshot .get key. This will give us the ID. And then if you want a name, you say data snapshot .child name to string name .get value to string. And you don't need to string. Let's keep it like that. There's no problem with it. And now just go inside here and say items. Item. Sorry. I made a capital I. Doesn't need to be capitalized. So yeah, I believe that's everything. Now we just need to run it and check if everything checks out. Let me just double check everything. Alright, yeah. So yeah, let's just run it. Oops, there's an error inside here. Where? Oh, semicolon at the end. Damn, I love JavaScript because of this. Java in this case. So yeah, let's run it and see if any errors show up. Okay, so it finished loading. Let's just log in. Let's go with the mail. Let me just pick up my phone. Let's go with the mail account, and so the female account should appear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 login, and there we go. We have the female name, we have an image behind it, it is customized to our preference, so it is working just fine. So in the next lesson we'll be taking this a step further, so we'll be getting the information out of the card when we swipe left or right, which is our main goal. So it is extremely easy. It really only takes 2 lines of code, but I wanted to put it in a video, in the lesson where we actually save something to the database, because I think that that's more logical thing to do. So that's all for now. Thank you all very much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, it helps me tremendously, those 2 things. Donate if you can, obviously, and yeah, I'll see you again tomorrow. So, ciao!